Hi again and welcome back to this series of videos, a beginner's guide to music direction for musical theatre. These videos are committed to helping new music directors primarily by sharing information and tips to become more effective in your role and hopefully helping you get the very best from your performers. I think this is about the 23rd video in the series, covering the huge number of different topics related to music theatre, but more particularly for musical directors, and all the responsibilities you need to be aware of. Take a look back if you've missed any of the subjects. I started this channel during the COVID-19 pandemic and during one of the lockdown periods here in the UK. As I record this video now, we are hopefully coming out of a lockdown, and guess what? Over the past few weeks I've taken on some music direction work. Hooray! Theatre seems to be reawakening after everything closing in March 2020. I hope things are opening wherever you live. Now, because of this, it's likely that I may not be posting videos quite as frequently, not only due to time constraints, but frankly, I may be getting towards the end of this long list of subjects that involve the role of music director. But do let me know if you want me to take on any specific subject I may not yet have covered. However, I will still continue to answer questions, so keep those questions going. Now, I currently have 3 musical theatre projects on the go, and one of them requires some music preparation, and as such I have been referring to a handful of piano conductor scores for information. And this got me thinking. When I started MDing many years ago, some of the scores that we were supplied with by licensing companies were, quite frankly, in a disgusting state. We were told regularly by these companies that to ensure that all pencil marks had been erased before returning, yet the condition in which we received them sometimes certainly had not been erased. Many of the scores were handwritten and needed some careful deciphering before you were able to read them, let alone play them. Some even had pages missing. For one well-known production I was MDing, after telephoning endlessly one particular licensing company over a period of 3 weeks, the band parts actually failed to turn up until after the first night. With 3 days to go before the band call, I told them that I had no option but to start to write the parts myself, or at least the bass and drum part. "Oh no, you can't do that," was the reply. "It's against copyright." Well, after responding to the lady in a way she wasn't expecting, I did write some parts and the production went ahead. Hey, guess what? We ran the production for a week and wasn't charged for the pleasure. A free license, if you like. Not the group's fault. The company had clearly failed on their side of the contract. This was just one of many issues that groups used to have with these companies. Thankfully, most of that has now changed. Unless you're going to tell me otherwise. No doubt due to technology and particularly notation software, the scores we receive nowadays for our licensed productions is presented in a way we can actually read. Not only readable, but many now contain a huge amount of additional information such as instrumentation, detailed dialogue cues, clear information on vamps, metronome marks, and even information on click tracks. And above all, we can read them. And this got me thinking generally about copyright and licensing rules surrounding our productions. I used to work in an area of copyright and was regularly asked about these complicated rules. Copyright pertains to many arts, but as far as musical theatre is concerned, we need to know what can and cannot be performed on stage. Changes to dialogue, videoing of performances, etc. So I thought today we'd take a closer look at the rules surrounding the licensing of your production. Licensing a musical to be performed on stage is not only important, but a vital requirement of making theatre. Writers not only need to safeguard their work, but also, after all, earn a living wage. There used to be many different licensing companies, but over the past couple of decades, more and more seems to have merged together into the handful we now have that will deal with all aspects of your production's legal requirements. Some musicals are licensed without restriction, but others have some additional requirements, and this is usually a requirement of the author. Don't assume all productions are the same, or assume that you can hold a few rehearsals, print a few leaflets and posters, and away you go. You certainly can't. Every public performance needs a license, unless of course you know the author or you've written it yourself. One of the main reasons for not granting a license is down to a professional production that may be being considered or is currently running, and as such, nothing is going to be granted for any amateur production. There's nothing you can do about that, you just need to find another suitable production for your membership. But do remember that some productions will be granted a license in some countries and the same production not granted in others. So, although you may see a group doing a production in the UK, don't assume it will be available in the US or elsewhere in the world. All written works, musical or not, are covered by some form of copyright law from the moment they are written. Copyright law can be quite complicated and differs between each country. Here in the UK, for instance, copyright generally lasts for 70 years from the date of death of the author. If it's not in copyright, you're free to perform to your heart's content and change it as much as you want. Performances of Gilbert and Sullivan operetta are regularly changed in style. I even orchestrated a production of the Mikado some years ago, using many different musical styles in the telling of this tale. Some productions that you may feel are out of copyright may have an adaptation or a more modern translation. This adaptation or translation will, however, be protected by copyright on behalf of the translator or the adapter. So, be aware. But I'm not charging for our performance. Do I still need a license? Yes, 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 you do. It's an absolutely false assumption that if you don't charge to see a production, you don't need a license. It is still a public performance. The only exception would be if you're presenting in front of your family or friends, or in a school as part of a lesson or exam. School productions open to parents and families are deemed as public performances, so always check and apply before starting any rehearsals. Can we make changes to the script? Some directors feel it's okay to change various aspects of the production. For instance, replace a name of a town for a more local flavour, or change the name of a character, or add a song that was from the film version, or maybe change the gender of a character. When you're granted a license to perform, you are given permission to perform the work as written. Yes, there are sometimes alternative songs provided. I can think of examples like The Sound of Music and Godspell, for instance, that have replacement songs provided. I'm sure there'll be many more. If you're thinking of any such changes, though, check with your license company. Talking of Godspell, I know that there is some guidance from Stephen Schwartz himself, giving some very detailed notes, which includes a very open and unusual amount of freedom for making changes for this production. Remember though, this is very rare. If you're unsure about any changes, check. Can we invite people to the dress rehearsal? Well, you can, but whether you charge for watching the dress rehearsal or charge a smaller fee than the regular ticket price, it's still deemed as a public performance, and as such, it's counted as a performance when calculating your license fee. Can we perform a song or a number of songs from a musical in concert form? In general, you don't need a license to perform songs from a musical in the concert form, but there are some caveats. Firstly, here in the UK anyway, please check elsewhere, the section should not exceed 20 minutes in duration. Secondly, it should not visually be representative of the original musical, and therefore should avoid any associated choreography, costumes or scenery, or use any dialogue to link the songs together. So no mini performances. Well, you might say that the songs themselves are still under copyright, so how is that managed? Well, in these circumstances, the performances are covered under what are sometimes called a small rights license. In the US, SESAC and ASCAP handle these type of licenses. Here in the UK, the Performing Rights Society, or PRS, that manage licenses for music in public places, issue licenses to individual establishments, and your venue is very likely to be covered in this form. All these authorities handle music performances and not any form of dramatic performance. If in doubt over performance of any songs, check with your performance venue in the first instance. Can we video our production? No, no, no! Recording the production, whether that's a video recording, streaming it, or even recording the audio, is not part of your license to perform it. Now, there are some rare circumstances when this may be allowed, and some licensing companies will provide a license for this at an additional fee. But don't ever assume because you may have seen some other groups' videos, you can do it without permission. It's against the law, period. Can we use the musical's logo? Logos, like other elements of the production, are covered by copyright law. Again, and at an additional cost, your licensing company may allow you to use a recognisable logo associated with that particular production. The iconic eyes in the production of Cats is a good example. Again, check with your licensing company of which logos you are allowed to use. And you certainly will not be allowed to use any such logos on t-shirts, mugs, or any form of merchandise without permission, which is unlikely to be granted. Merchandise can be purchased, however, through licensed suppliers, and your licensing company may be able to arrange this. Or you could just involve a local graphic designer to make your own logo, and then you can do what you like with it. But be aware, any such logo should not be an adaptation of the original in any way. Some licensing companies can even supply short videos of your musical's logo used in the West End and Broadway, instantly recognisable, and to include your company's name and dates of your production to use on social media. So then, what do we get for our money? Well, you get permission to do the production in question. Virtually everything else is at an additional cost. The most important to us as music directors will be the orchestration. The license holder's website will have all the necessary details as to what is provided regarding the orchestration. For an additional sum, you will get a certain number of librettos or scripts. In some cases, however, you need to buy these rather than rent them. You get the provided orchestration, usually delivered around 4 weeks before the date of your last production. Sometimes there are alternative orchestrations to suit smaller budgets. For tips on choosing which instruments you may use, take a look at this video on choosing instruments if you're a bit tight on the budget. Facebook groups are great at sharing information regarding what is required in this regard, and I know many of you are members of such groups, so use these to ask information from music directors that have done the production previously. Your rehearsal material provided will vary depending on the licensing company and the production in question. 1 or 2 piano conductor scores are usually provided, along with a certain number of librettos or scripts. Some conductor scores are provided in the form of a full score for those who like to see all the instrument lines in one score. These are becoming more popular now, no doubt due to many orchestrations having been input into more modern notation software. And nowadays, in addition to all this, is a huge array of resources that can be supplied to go with your production. These include poster artwork, keyboard programming, director and choreographer guides, puppets, piano accompaniments for rehearsals, scenic projections, a CD of the performance accompaniment for the entire production, sound effects, study guides, and even software to manage your ticket sales. And of course, an increasing number of productions are available using software to help you, the MD, to run rehearsals and provide substitute orchestras that actually handle vamps. Maybe that's a video in itself sometime. Licensing companies have come a long way since my experience of failed delivery of band parts and offer much more than just permission than some scruffy band parts, as they once did. Use them. They are there to assist and help you present the very best production you can, and of course help make this wonderful world of musical theatre an even better experience. See you next time.